Welcome back to Hidden Power. Today we're going to discuss every single thing that could be in a Generation 5 remake. We've got rumors by highly credible leakers. My name is Dusty Go-Go. This is Lumio's Post.
Hello.
Soul Silver Art is on his way back to the States, but he's not with us today. Instead, we've got our good friend, Linky.
How we doing, everybody?
What's up, man? How you been? I'm so glad that you're on the show today. We've been trying to get you for a little while now.
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk about some leaks that hopefully have some legs. That would be nice for a change.
I think they will. Riddler Coup, I think he goes back to BDSP. Does he go back even further than that?
He actually goes back even further than that. He goes back to Sun and Moon.
So this individual who has leaked Pokemon for BDSP, Legends Arceus, Scarlet and Violet, is now hinting about a Generation 5 remake. We've got a couple different options. We talked about it last week. There's a full episode there. But today we wanted to take Linky and get his take because he is a resident of New York. And I think he's
Unovan.
He is Unovan. I think he's got a lot of great insight. He does great stuff on his own Pokemon channel, but he's also he's a Unovan. And I think it's going to be a fun conversation to discuss locations that we could see in a Black 3, White 3 game, or maybe in a, Legends, Kirem, or whatever you want to call it. That's the thing about these remakes, right? We don't just get the same thing. Let me go back there maybe a little bit. Some of the remakes we get are kind of just like cut and dry, but you would
we get the same thing from remakes.
The special thing about Generation 5 was that the direct sequel that we got, the Black 2 and White 2, added new locations. They changed the perspective of the entire region. The whole thing felt like it got shuffled up. So I feel like it's worth discussing what another installment into the Unova games, into the Unova region, what that would look like. I guess, before we go too far, I think it's worth talking about what we're all kind of, I think, struggling with this last week or so, where I think the entire community is expecting a Johto remake, some sort of return to Johto. Linky, you just did a great video on your channel. Do you want to recap and kind of defend your argument?
I think it's interesting because I even mentioned in that video that in a perfect world, I would love to return to Unova if they were going to do something different. You mentioned that Unova is the region where they kind of ditched the third version formula, did something a little bit different with the second games and did a sequel. So I think there's a lot of people in the community that would hope that if you get another Return to Unova game, Game Freak would look at that and go, okay, well, this is the region where we kind of tried to do things a little bit differently. Maybe we bring that over to whatever remake it is. So if it's a Black and White 3, if it's something weaving in the Legends concept that they've now shown as a proof of concept with Arceus, something like that. But if it's Johto, it kind of fits the classic patterns that Pokemon does, following when they would do remakes. The last game to get a remake were games set in the Sinnoh region. Johto was the game that followed it. We've never had any more Johto remakes since those games with Heart Gold and Soul Silver, whereas Kanto has been redone countless times now. We've had Fire Red, Leaf Green, Let's Go Pikachu. So in a sort of like a chronological sense, Johto seems to be next, but it's also going back to a remake. Whereas if you do Unova, you're going back to a brand new game. So with the leaks, I can, if they come out next year and it's a Unova game,
you're not going to be surprised.
No, I'm not going to be surprised.
Dude, it took me for a loop, but what you're saying is true. It's like, we don't want to just hinge everything on leaks. Yeah. But this person is credible, like 100% credible. The only little wild card is that the tweets could just be misleading because he has misdirected before. But when it has come to revealing actual things or riddling actual things, it's been dead on, right? It's like a 99% success rate. So I think it's a little, I don't know what you want to call it, but there's a little bit of a thing there where I'm like, I don't really know if I want to believe this, but it's almost like I just need to accept it.
Well, I decided to do a little digging on release dates because Pokemon likes to line a lot of this stuff up from time to time. So is next year a special anniversary for Black and White? Does it have some significance with Gen 2 games? And there's not a ton there, really. Black and White celebrated the 10-year anniversary recently. I guess you could say, well,
that was
maybe
2021?
Yeah. Maybe you could line up with a Black and White 2, but would that really do anything for a timeline? Not really, because then you're kind of just skipping over black and white. So it would really have to be them looking and going, okay, well, we just did Sinnoh. It's not time for the next generation. It's there's too much, there's some more room that needs to be filled. I don't think they would do the whole 2-game thing again where we had BDSP and Legends within the same span of 12 months, but they could.
I'm trying really hard to resist wanting to be like, oh, this thing that they just gave us is great. This is going to be the new pattern. Because I don't think that's actually what it's going to be. Let's Go came out and we all said, we're going to get into the Let's Go game. Then they did something crazy. And it is tempting to be like, give me that again, because it actually was a good formula. I thought BDSP to Legends Arceus was a good formula. And I'm kind of under the belief that, like, I don't think I don't consider those games as like standalone releases. I feel like those are like 3 games delivered intentionally together. So like you'd almost want to look at those games and the sales of those games as one unit, right? Or as one release, which I know they are a little bit different and they are different games, but I would argue that because they outsourced BDSP, right? They didn't have to spend 3 years of development, one team 3 years of development on like each of the games, you know what I'm saying? So
you mention a lot in your videos, like your headcanon for certain things. And in my head, I can see a world where Game Freak wanted to do something different with a return to Sinnoh, and they wanted to do the Legends Arceus thing. And then thought to themselves, well, we give Pokemon fans kind of like from the bottom up remakes of older games so much, whether it's just bringing it up to the newest hardware, making a couple changes to Heart Gold Soul Silver, Fire Red Leaf Green, Oras, we still want to give them something. Yeah. And they went to Ilka and said, we're doing this different thing with Sinnoh, but we still want to give people, a classic Diamond and Pearl experience. So I guess I'm more willing to believe that Legends is something that they would continue to repeat over BDSP, but I don't know. They've started new patterns and kept them going before. They've started new patterns and ditched them before. Like I don't think the community feels Let's Go is going to continue moving forward.
What do you think,
That's
Zach?
a one-time thing.
No, it's funny too, because on his like the way, I guess to briefly recap for anybody who isn't fully caught up, the way that this leaker has seemingly teased Unova remakes is first he posted a picture of some characters that are appearing in Indigo Disc, which is the second part of the Scarlet and Violet DLC, and he said one of these like holds the key to lore and is also a big spoiler for the next game. And on there is a kid with white hair, yellow eyes, and has a dark type jacket, like it's a mastiff jacket, and dragon type pants, like they've got the dragon type icon on them. And so people's thinking is, well, Drayden, the dragon type gym leader from Unova, has white hair, he has yellow eyes, and High Dragon is the Unova Sinnoh, which happens to be dark and dragon type. And then Ku put up a poll and was like, what's your wish list? Place your bets. And the options were like Paradox Unova, Legends Kyurem, Black and White 3, and then Let's Go Unova. And it's so funny because no one's taking the Let's Go Unova option seriously at all. Like I have yet to see anybody make a genuine, I think it's Let's Go Unova, because if you look at, no one said that.
No. Yeah, I could see someone saying that, being like, well, Gen 5 was a soft reboot of Gen 1, and Gen 1 got a Let's Go game. Oh. So what if we get a Let's Go game of Gen 5?
Oh, the unfortunate thing is I can totally see a world where Game Freak looks at that and goes, yes, let's do it. That's what they want.
Especially with how how Pokemon Go is kind of been getting a lot of pushback lately because of some of Niantic's decisions, like regarding raid passes and I think some other things in the community.
Pushback, though. They've been getting pushback for 6 years.
They're getting, but it's different. It is bigger now, and I don't think it will be funny. Oh, it is.
I don't necessarily think it's bigger now, but it seems like they're having more internal issues. Like there's reports of layoffs, things of that nature.
Dude, I saw that. What was it, like 100 people got laid off at Niantic? Is that real?
It is. Yeah. I don't know if the number specifically is real, but I do know that they are doing layoffs.
There was a bunch of layoffs.
It's scary because that suggests that it's the end of the game, right? That would suggest it. Maybe not. Well, maybe they're just cleaning house.
It could have been a world where their profits were so high that they felt that they could upscale so dramatically, and now that we're kind of, it's not the best economic time, not to get political, but
that's true.
So they feel like they can't right now. I don't think the Pokemon Company would let a game like Pokemon Go that still makes, a good amount of money just kind of die.
Maybe maybe Instagram will make a a Pokemon Go clone. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, because
right?
the threads.
Yeah, because
Facebook
Twitter laid off all of their employees and they're doing so well.
Facebook will buy Niantic and then tie in Pokemon Go accounts to Instagram accounts.
Oh, here's another like rumor that I saw. Maybe Pokemon is going to just like create their own Pokemon Go or what? I'm not describing.
Well, it's
it
in
correctly.
collaboration with
the thing is, Pokemon owns a stake in Niantic. I'm almost positive.
Let me look
so they do still have a sense of ownership over Go. I think the Let's Go thing is why it's not going to happen again. They made Let's Go because they felt let's, one, mess with the Switch hardware, and two, try to capture a market that was brought about by Pokemon Go. All of these people who hadn't been playing Pokemon. Let's bring some of them over to Nintendo's new console. Let's try to get some of this market. I don't really think that's like a thing at this point.
Right. Yeah, so the Pokemon Company is a big shareholder of Niantic
that's what I
and
found.
is the owner of Pokemon intellectual property. Thus, they have a really big stake in Pokemon Go. Yep. Also, the Niantic layoffs are even worse than 100. It was as of June 30th, 2023, they laid off 230 employees.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, which is horrible.
It's unfortunate. You do have to wonder, though. You do have to wonder what, because they have a couple games, right? They have a Harry Potter.
They have that Harry Potter game. Yeah,
mm-hmm. They just launched a Pikmin game. They're actually creating another game that is basically Pokemon Go without Pokemon, which is like Pokemon Go is fun because it's Pokemon.
I mean, their formula is almost the same every time. It's the mix of AR and VR kind of real world stuff. But Pokemon was why it was so successful. It wasn't that you were walking around on a map and your GPS connected. That wasn't the appeal. It was that you could catch Pokemon
in real life. Like that's the illusion that they're living creatures all around you. So which is also like that's the magic of Pokemon. I think what Niantic should do next, or Nintendo, whatever, they should make Nintendogs in the style of Pokemon Go. Mm-hmm. How fun would that be? We have not seen that since the DS. And I think
found a border collie.
Fun. Yeah, you find like stray animals, you rescue them, you literally go on walks with your dogs. It's perfect.
Well, Niantic, if you want to steal this idea, you got to give us.
Yeah.
Listen, I want a new Nintendogs game so bad. Take it, please. It's free.
Dude, I'll walk around.
Nintendogs was. I saw this thing and it was like rest in peace to all the Nintendogs that haven't been fed since 2008. And I was like, no, why would you put that in my head?
Yeah, and then this is like Animal Crossing erasure. Like
I was literally about to say, like, I'll see those Instagram posts of like your villagers are still waiting for you.
We're talking about Nintendogs, but my Animal Crossing people, my animals, they're rotting on my little island.
I feel like you could probably do something with Animal Crossing in like the Go format.
I think you could, yeah.
You could, but don't they have
a mobile that's
game?
Actually true.
Oh, you know what? They do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we didn't do this right away. Let's do it now. This is the speed round segment of the podcast. You are a new guest. We want to get to know you. I've known you for, I think we were talking about, 2 years now since Legends Arceus. I don't actually think I know why you're called Linky. Do you want to explain that to me? Because I was surprised that you didn't make any Tears of the Kingdom content. That could be a misconception.
It's a misconception because I didn't grow up playing Zelda games. The first Zelda game that I fully played was Breath of the Wild when the Switch came out. Okay. So my name was not a reference to Zelda in any form. It just kind of ended up working out that way. I don't actually know where the name came from. The name is so old that when I was like 7 years old, it was my name on Webkins when I was first going on the internet for the first time.
Nice.
Flashback.
I think I could still access that account. So that's where the
name... digital animals that are rotting.
Yes. Oh God, those poor animals.
Yeah.
So that's where the name comes from, and I just kind of stuck with it ever since.
All right, that makes sense. Linky, Lumi told me that. What would you think? That
my speculation, I told him I actually felt dumb because I felt like my initial assumption should have been Zelda, but my assumption was actually Link Cable. That's where my brain went.
I wish.
But,
that's cool.
I should really just retcon it and make something up.
You should rebrand to that. Link Cable is
cool.
Yeah. I think we wanted to call this podcast like the Link Cable Podcast.
I would have had to issue a copyright strike.
Yeah. Smack. What would your type be if you were a Pokemon? And what would your hidden power type be?
Oh my goodness. Probably a water type. That's the type that I've always liked. That was my favorite type growing up. Lapras, Vaporeon, Swampert, some of my favorite Pokemon. A hidden power type.
Yeah, so like you have to answer it like it's like your astrology sign. Like, what is your like rising moon? I don't know what that means, but like
I know the sign, but is it different if it's a rising? Like, I think I'm a Capricorn.
you
'Cause
could
I'm
be
born in
double
January.
water. I think you could be double water.
Okay. Is Capricorn a
if-
water sign? I don't know.
Well, we haven't really defined what the hidden power type means. Like a lot of people have kind of said, "Oh, well, I feel like I've kind of got like a dark side to me that I don't really show." So I'm gonna go with dark type. You know.
I get okay. That's good. I think I'll go with
Yeah, like what do you? Yeah, that's actually good. Like what do you feel in your heart, but you don't actually show the world?
Your secret side.
I think I'll go with ice type. sometimes I just don't want to be bothered. Sometimes people gotta like back off, and I feel like ice type kind of gives that energy.
I like that.
Yeah.
You've left me on red before. I like that.
Oh, don't take offense to that. It's not personal.
No. Yeah, I like that.
That's okay, Linky. I leave him on red all the time. No.
He does. He actually does. All right, Linky. What are your top 6 favorite Pokemon of all time? This would be your dream team. This is like your Silver League Conference, Indigo League dream team.
I'm gonna just list them off without thinking about it, or else we're gonna be here for half an hour.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
You
go.
can pick unevolved Pokemon.
Yeah, we're gonna go Swampert. We're gonna go Chikorita. We're gonna go Lapras, Stoutland, Torterra, and Beware.
This is very main character.
Okay, I love that Stoutland.
The Beware is
on here.
good.
I love when people have like very obscure mons.
I sunk so much time into Sun and Moon when they first came out, like 200 hours within the first 3 weeks. I was absolutely having a blast. I was so into it, wanted to complete the Pokedex, everything. Took it on bus rides, everything. And there are so many great Alola Pokemon that are so underrated. Beware, Palisand, Lycanroc. So they're Araquanid. They're all. It's great. There's so many great generation.
It was a
Pokemon.
hard hitting game, like with designs. The Pokemon designs were top notch, and there was kind of something for everyone too. Like you had the, you had more cute stuff. You had really like cool stuff like Golisopod, and then of course the Ultra Beasts were like really weird, like Picasso like takes on Pokemon.
I will throw one honorable mention in as a legendary, Rayquaza.
Oh yes,
that's legendary.
Oh yes,
It really is perfect.
very nice.
I think I think Generation 7, I was thinking about that. I was looking at just like a list of Pokemon and I was like, wow, these Gen 7 Pokemon are actually super old and somehow almost like they're like 8 years old.
Oh
Right?
my God,
When did it come out? 2016? Think about it. Like,
2016.
right, that's a long time. That is a really long
ago.
time. And it makes me realize like it's without fail. Like you give a generation a couple years and all of a sudden you're like,
think
all
about
these
how many
designs are perfect.
so many people like I grew up with Generation 7. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I know Zach's first game was Gen 9. No, I'm just
I'm
kidding.
not that young.
The running joke is that he's young, but
I bet Linky's around my age.
I think so.
How old are you?
I'm 22.
23.
Okay, see? Look, there we go. Finally, we've got a young man on the podcast. I'm sick of dealing with these
Well,
old
are
people,
you
man.
are you an old 22 or a young 22?
I will turn 23 in November.
Okay, I turned 23 in January. My first game was Emerald and then Leaf Green. So like I'll tell myself like, oh, those are the games I grew up with, but the games that I played when I was like going into my teenage years were Black and White. And I don't associate that with like the years I was growing up, but it kind of was. Like those are the games I remember getting the special edition DSi for Pokemon Black. That was like the white DSi, getting it on launch day.
Yeah.
That's like the first game, the second game I got on launch, and it's like, wow, those are actually like my childhood memories.
No, dude, this is so validating. Finally, there's someone like that's had my experience because I started with Fire Red. Black and White was my first game that I got on launch day. Because we tried to. It was me and my two best friends. We tried to convince my mother to take us to GameStop the day before and see if we could get early, because we're kids. We don't realize that like
You have to
they
convince
can
her.
get in serious trouble if they do that. But yeah, man, good times. Good times.
It was Heart Gold was the first one I got, or no, it was Platinum was the first one I got on launch. That little Giratina figure that you could get from GameStop, and then it was Heart Gold, and then the first cycle that I like paid attention to the leaks and rumors like somewhat significantly was Black and White. I'd have a friend come over, he'd be like, "There's a Z Pokemon that they're teasing," and it ended up being Zoroark, and for the longest time I thought it was legendary. Because of that whole cycle.
Remember two things that's really fun to remember, super nostalgic. First off, the Cora leaks.
Yes.
From the Black 2, White 2 days. Those were great. And then you mentioned the Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and I instantly thought of the commercials with the Sprouts Brothers.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Whenever I get a chance to use that footage in a video, I jump on it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the way they pronounce Pokemon, it's like, I think it's like that.
Pokemon.
Yeah. I love my Pokemon. I can walk with my Pokemon. Yeah. I love it so much.
When he clips his Pokemon
on his brother.
I almost called it a Pokemon Go Plus, but the Pokewalker.
He was on his brother.
I was watching that commercial like 3 days ago on YouTube when I was at it, because I was like, can I use this? Can I justify throwing this in?
It was that and Danimals. They were always on the Danimals commercials.
Man, it's funny because I think I was also equally influenced by these kids. Those two guys. The Sprouse brothers.
They're the best.
They sold me everything.
Oh yeah. I was always proud that my name was Zach.
It's those commercials, and then it's seeing the Pokemon floats and statues at the Thanksgiving Day parade in New York City. When they would have the Pikachu float, but they would also have like a couple of years they had statues rolling down the road of like the legendary Pokemon for the newest games. There was one generation where they did that, and those are like the core memories for me.
Didn't the first Black and White movie, the Zekrom Reshiram movie, didn't that release in theaters? It was like select theaters.
All right. Thank God Black and White is the topic today. They did a tour for the release of Black and White, where they went to malls across the United States. You could play a demo of the game, and then if the mall had a movie theater, they also showed the Zoroark movie in theaters.
Cool.
So I convinced my dad to drive me to Pennsylvania. I think it was in Philadelphia.
How far away is that
from you?
Closest
mall. It's probably about 100 miles. So it's about 90 miles from the city.
Yeah.
So it's probably about 100 miles from me. Maybe a little bit more.
2 hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we drove to the mall, so I got to play a demo of Black and White and got to see the Zoroark movie in theaters. And at a little kiosk in the middle of the mall, they were showing the first handful of anime episodes for Black and White. So I remember sitting in like these couches with all these kids having their DSs out, playing Heart Gold and Soul Silver and Platinum, and watching the Shadow of Zekrom episode, which I think was the premiere of that season of the anime.
That is so cool.
That's a core memory right there.
It was awesome. It was the best.
So much of my Pokemon consumption is like just in this basement or like in my room. You know what I'm saying? And like back in the day, you could like literally there'd be like booths at Toys R Us. I remember there was like a Lego building competition for like Lego Star Wars. You had to like build the like largest lightsaber. I have so many like weird memories at like malls.
Yeah,
not to drag us more. Not to drag us more off topic. I'll throw one more story in now that it's there.
We're on Black and White. We're fine.
Yes, this is pre-Black and White. They did the VGC tournaments, and for Platinum, I convinced again. I don't know why my dad ever agreed to any of this, but I convinced him to take me to Philadelphia for a VGC tournament for Platinum. They don't hold anything in the city. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Unova has nothing apparently.
Yeah.
So we managed to go there, and the VGC referee who came over to my table to watch my match was the old Pokemon YouTuber Maryland. He was a ref in that tournament.
He's a legend.
So in that tournament, Maryland emceed my game that I lost.
Are you kidding me? That's sick.
And they gave away a shiny Milotic to everybody who attended that tournament.
Did you get it?
I have the shiny Milotic somewhere.
Oh, no way.
I think it's locked in my Wii in Pokemon Ranch.
Oh, God.
Why? Because
you could transfer the Pokemon to Ranch, but if you reset your copy of Platinum, you couldn't transfer the Pokemon back.
Oh, that's
So there's a way to
bad.
get them with an action replay. You can change your ID number to do it. I haven't done it, but I
At that
still have
point-
that melodic.
Yeah, at that point you might as well just like recreate it and like have
Yes.
someone send it to you. That's
Yes.
really cool though. That's awesome. That's a special memory.
That
That's
is
really
so
cool.
neat. So how old were you when that would have happened? Like,
Platinum came out, what, 2009?
That sounds.
that
about
sounds
I
about
wanna
right because
say-
Black and White was 2010.
I know
I'm
Heart
pretty
Gold,
sure.
Soul Silver came out before that.
So I want to say that it was probably spring or summer of 2010. So after Platinum released.
You'd
It
have
was
just turned like
sometime
11.
in the year after Platinum released, I want to say.
Or you'd have just turned 10 or 11.
So
10.
I would have been 10, yeah.
That's so cool. Especially like when you're a kid, that stuff just hits so much harder.
Mm-hmm.
That's so nice.
It was great. It was awesome.
I'm living vicariously through your childhood now.
Yeah, this is definitely bringing me back. I was gonna say earlier, I was gonna ask you what your first game was, so you said that, but you said something where it's like, and I identify with this, where it's like you have this one era of like discovery with Pokemon, and then you kind of fall out of love with it, and then you have this like resurgence period where you're playing so much. And for me, I think what you're describing kind of lines up. For me, the first gen was like Gen 2, like blue version, and then Gen 2. That was like the first core memory of like discovery. And then I think it was around Gen 4, Heart Gold, Soul Silver specifically, and Black 2 or Black White, Black 2, White 2. That was like those are like my two core eras. So I liked what you said about that. I do want to ask you what your favorite Pokemon game is.
It's Platinum. Platinum is
Okay.
probably my favorite game. If I had to give a top 3, just because I think it sometimes I'll alternate, it's
Sure.
probably Platinum, Emerald, and honestly now Legends Arceus are probably my top 3.
Dude, yeah, honestly. I
Legends
thought I was an
is
old
great.
head who I like for so long I was like, man, the old games are better, like, and I was like, oh, I'm an old head. Like, why can I not enjoy a modern game? But it's Legends Arceus. Legends Arceus is the
enjoy
modern
them.
game.
Yep. I've made my peace with the fact that I think it's just normal that people's favorite games are the ones that are nostalgic to them.
Sure.
So in like 15 years, I'm sure I'll have a wildly different opinion of
Yeah.
some of the more modern games than I do now.
Yeah.
But it's Emerald, it's Platinum, and then it's Legends Arceus at this point.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm getting insecure about this, but like, Zach, it is true. I'm not even saying you're judging me, but like, it
I
is
am.
true that like I have had plenty of fun with the modern Pokemon games, but when it comes to my big thing is replayability, right? And we've discussed that like a lot of these modern games, they don't incentivize replaying, and then it turns into just like a central battle hub where you collect things and then grow your Pokemon. Where Legends Arceus actually felt like the adventure, the replayability option that I'm always looking for.
I'll give Scarlet and Violet major credit. It's the first game in a very long time that I actively like want to go back to and replay again, because I had such a good time. Once I got about 4 hours in, once I cleared some of the starting areas, I had such an awesome time just exploring and running around the region and building up a team. And I can absolutely see myself pulling out my copy of Scarlet, which is the game I didn't play from the start, and playing through it before the DLC again. I can absolutely see myself doing that.
You could even play it alongside the DLC because Teal Mask will be accessible once you
That's
get
true,
to
yeah.
Mesagoza.
If you're enjoying this episode, consider supporting Hidden Power on Patreon or YouTube channel memberships. We have 3 tiers, and the lowest tier starts at just $5 a month. Supporters get access to our secret Discord server and help control the direction of the podcast. This is the same Discord where we're recording the podcast right now. We interact here daily.
This Discord server is actually where we form the ideas for each episode.
If you ask a question, we're going to answer it on the show. Supporters also get priority responses in the comments.
Our love and friendship.
You get that. You get a little bit of that too. Yeah.
Our favoritism, we like you the best.
And if you want something a little bit more tangible, we have merch. What do you guys think about the merch?
The merch is
Beautiful.
great.
We've got Team Lumi in a beautiful blue, Team Dusty
The
in
best
a,
one.
in a forest green, and we got Team Soul in a blood red. Buy a t-shirt, show your allegiance, and if
Team Lumi.
Yeah, to Team Dusty. And if you want something a little bit more subdued, this is another logo that we made originally for the show. We didn't actually end up using this as a logo, but I thought it made a great merch design.
It's literally a beta design. You guys love our beta videos.
I love this so
it's
much.
Retro hidden power.
And look, when you turn around, this is literally my favorite shirt. It's literally my favorite shirt. Thank you everyone for watching and subscribing. And now back to the video. So we do want to talk about Unova today. I think we should probably start by discussing all of the Generation 5 Pokemon that were introduced in Gen 5. So like this at this point was 2010, who have since then got new evolutions, new regional forms. It seemed like a bulk of these have been in the last 3 years, or have been introduced in the last 3 years. So obviously we've got Basculegion in the new Basculin white form. That's from Legends Arceus. We've got Galarian, Darmanitan, and Duramaka. Great Pokemon. I honestly think I like those designs better than the original fire ones. They look like snowmen. In Gen 9, we got Bisharp evolving into King Gambit. That's super cool. Duat into Hisuian Samurott is again from so good. That's obviously, Legends Arceus. There's honestly a lot of Pokemon got new evolutions, regional evolutions in Legends. We got the Lilligant, Hisuian Braviary. We also got Galarian Yamask, which evolved into a new Pokemon, Runerigus. And as I go through this list, I'm thinking where would these Pokemon appear in another Gen 5 game, right? If we got that Black 3 and White 3, where would these show up on the map? Runerigus obviously makes sense to show up somewhat. I guess it doesn't make sense.
It would be trade since it's from a Galarian form.
Yes, but part of me feels like they could incorporate, because I guess if they are strictly Galarian forms or Hisuian forms, they would have to be trade or something.
But they usually do that with NPCs. Like, there's an NPC who trades you like a Cantonian Meowth and Galar, and Let's Go. You did it by NPCs.
We talked about patterns before. If they stick with what they usually do, it'll be an NPC who trades them to you. But Runerigus,
you can see that showing up in the right.
I would love
the ruins.
If there would be some sort of event in the game, a piece of the story where somebody has brought this ancient stone from the Galar region over to Unova, and it's for some reason it's disappeared. And it's running rampant in the desert, and that's how you encounter Runerigus.
The Nacree Museum. You could easily do an event like that.
Yeah. Yes.
That would be sweet. That would be really cool.
We've also got, making this list, I also realized we have Gigantamax Garbodor, right? We also have Mega Audino. Those are the only Gen 5 Pokemon that got a new type of gimmick evolution. Or gimmick battle change. Yeah, so far. But I think the limited amount of those really make me think this could just very easily be forgotten, ignored. I don't think we're gonna get Megas. I'm not expecting Gigantamax to return.
Yeah.
You do also have the Paradox Virizion though.
Well, yeah, so then I was gonna say we have all of these Paradox Pokemon, including Paradox Virizion. We've got Iron Leaves, Iron Jugulis, that's Hydreigon, Iron Moth, and Slitherwing, which are both forms of Volcarona, which is really cool. Brute Bonnet, and then I think that's all of them. But that's a lot of Gen 5 Pokemon. And I think,
there's so many Generation 5. This is, okay.
That's a lot of Gen 5, right?
This is a lot of Gen 5 attention that I wasn't putting together in my head before this.
It's a lot.
In just the recent generation.
Now, I will say, if you were to keep track of Johto in recent generations, you'd see the exact same amount.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Here's an idea. I feel like, am I going to complete this theory? I thought about this earlier, and I don't think I'm remembering all the points in my head. But I feel like Gen 5 does a good thing about highlighting the past and the future, and that's obviously a main theme in Scarlet and Violet, right? Obviously, with time travel. I think Johto also kind of feels like a region where it's kind of in the past. It's focused on tradition and upholding what came before it, right? It feels very in tune with the old ways of living. That reminds me of the past, where Unova is, the whole thing kind of symbolized a rebirth, or maybe moving into the future.
Well,
so I
and
feel like both of
history is
these
a big
games,
part of like Jotonian culture, like with the Kimono
Yeah.
girls and Sprout Tower. It's
yeah,
very
absolutely.
history plays a huge role in the
The
games.
legendary beasts. You've
I was
got
about to
all
say
of
you
these
literally
legends
have
throughout the region.
a time traveling Pokemon in
Yeah.
Celebi.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
also true.
But I think Gen 5 feels like there's this really clean dichotomy, and we even see this in the later game with the I was gonna say there's a really clear dichotomy between like obviously truth and ideals, but also I think that symbolizes the way things should be, so the future and how it used to be, which is the past. And I think we see that in very clearly in some of the later routes where there's I forget what the city's called, but it literally changes appearance depending on which version you play, and it either looks more
Uplucid.
futuristic, Uplucid City, and then there's also the White Forest, which is natural, of course, or Black City, which is a city. Also, this is the first. Also, I think Black and White were the first games to really like make a Pokemon region, feel modern with a city, like a full flippin' city. Like it felt futuristic. The whole game felt crazy.
They had some more version exclusive like changes in Black 2 and White 2. Like there was I think it was called Reversal Mountain, was like like it was the volcano-ish area that was different between versions. And I really feel like there were other ones too that I'm just completely blanking on.
Some of the mountain, Reversal Mountain's a great example because in one of the games it's a hot lava mountain. The music changes completely, and then in the alternate version it's kind of like a wet, like humid cave. It's a lot more the blue aesthetic is used a lot more, so it's and the music is completely different. It's a lot more somber, a lot more relaxed.
So we also have
I didn't know the music was different. I remembered the environments, but that's really cool. I only played one of those versions, so
anybody, go and listen to the two different versions of Reversal Mountain's track.
Doing
They're
that completely different.
Yeah. So
That's really cool.
Just for listeners, we do have a whole list of questions and comments that we received from last week's episode, and we also have a whole bunch of theories and mysteries that are unanswered. But while we do have Linky on, I do want to discuss, like I said in the beginning, locations that we could see return, or at least highlight things that could show up again. So I've got this article here. I'm gonna go through this, and then Linky, then I would love to hear you deliver just some places that you would love to see. Yeah, I wish I gotta play through Unova again. I gotta play through it to get it like in my brain now. I started a playthrough maybe like a couple months ago. I'm trying to train up a Boldor. I got a Tepig and a Boldor, and I think I might have a Leavanny or maybe a Sunkern. But I gotta keep playing through this. But anyways, so here's 10 Unova locations you can visit in the real world.
Wait.
So we got Nacrene City based on the Brooklyn Bridge. It says Dumbo, Brooklyn. It must be the town. So this is the bridge. This is what we see.
It's an acronym for Down Under Manhattan Bridge.
Yes. Yep, right here. Down Under, which I actually didn't even know. I'm assuming that it must be what the elephant in the room, Dumbo.
Dumbo, there we go.
It all makes sense.
It all comes full circle.
So Linky, what is your proximity to the city? Like, do you visit a lot the city?
Dox yourself.
I'm being seriously.
It depends on traffic, but I'm about a 55-minute drive from the city, which isn't that long at all. I can hop on a train to the city and get there in about an hour and a half. Everything near me is connected through the infrastructure of some kind.
Okay. So we've got also Castelia City. This is based on downtown Manhattan area, and you can see right here, it's literally they worked hard with these, like with this sprite. This is actually like footage from the game, which is so cool.
I always love that the Pokemon Center had the building on top of it. You know what I mean? Like the Pokemon Center was taller, even though you couldn't see it inside.
And then in the game, they have above the Pokemon Center, they've got the advertisement with Pikachu on it.
Yeah. I like how they stylized the city to make it look like it's kind of all falling in on itself. It reminds me of like how they depicted the Iron Throne, where it's just like it's so ridiculous, right?
I love that the cities were like a gimmick of Black and White. Yeah. So many of them were like so heavily advertised, whether it was a form change depending on the version, or Castelia itself. Like they did such a good job with that.
Or seasons even changed. City.
Yeah, that's true. Which is another thing that is like hinged on the passage of time. I think I think this might be a question that someone left earlier, but I was like, this actually doesn't even sound that ridiculous. I mean, it does sound ridiculous, but what if we get 2 versions of this remake, and one is more focused on the future and one's more on the past, right? So there's that split that we get. I mean,
Ooh.
is that really that crazy of a thing? I guess the whole game doesn't need to be future and past.
No,
but I would think like a texture pack.
They might
could change
just
that.
do a little more of what they did with Opaloosa and kind of add that aesthetic to other places where it had like a past and future look, depending on the version.
Or maybe it's like maybe it's the same time period, but there's 2 different realities that pop up. So which is I guess what we did see in most Pokemon games, but also with Black and White, with what you're saying. But they could probably like lean into that. So that doesn't even sound that crazy because they've done it for the original.
I could see a world where they make a Unova game where it's one game, but the story focuses on things that happened in the past and then things that are going to happen in the future, and then how those 2 mesh in the present. Because, I mean, the last 2 games we've gotten, Legends Arceus game focused on the past, had time travel. Scarlet and Violet, pulling Pokemon from different realities, the time machine, the books talking about what had happened in the past. Like, all of it this is like area that they're covering right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. We got Nimbasa City, Midtown Manhattan area, which you can see that very clearly. Such a great area. Village Bridge, based on this Robert Kennedy Bridge in Manhattan.
Love the Village Bridge.
There's so many bridges.
We fangirled about it last episode where, like, I love that you could talk to people and get the music to change by who you're talking to.
Yeah, like one was here. I think this one did it.
I want to say
up there, girl.
I think
in the
Village
grass.
Bridge is, if I'm not wrong, another location that changes based on the game. I think there's some alterations.
No, I think it's the town over. I forget which direction. But this is like a bridge that connects to one of those towns that like changes
Opaloosa
drastically.
is that way. Lacunosa is that way.
Yes.
Man, you really do have it on lock. I gotta study up. Mistralton City is based on Teterboro, New Jersey. I didn't think this was based on New Jersey. Right here, this town, the airport town, which honestly was so cool in a Pokemon game to see, like, and you could actually get on there and go to the nature preserve. That was that was one of the coolest things in the game.
One of the coolest parts is that to the south of the airport they have the greenhouses.
Yeah.
And that's where they grow all of their food, and then they'll fly that food to other parts of the region. One of the NPCs talks to you about. It's so cool.
Wow, that's so cool.
I love when they add, like, that does not come up in gameplay at all. Like, you know,
you can
it
skip
doesn't
right
matter.
past it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's just adding a little more life to it. I love when Pokemon does that.
That is a part of like open world that I think a lot of people are missing, right? Like, I feel like that is, I don't know. Do you think there was a lot of that kind of stuff in Scarlet and Violet?
Well, I think the issue is with open world is so much more of it is based on your individual experience, and you can miss so much more in an open world. Like there's NPCs you can completely skip in old Pokemon games, and there's lore you can totally just not get. But it's a lot less because there's just less area to explore. There's less people to talk to. With an open world, you could skip a whole cave and it doesn't impact your game at all. Like, I talked to someone, there's a big cave complex under one of the cities in Paldea. I think it's down to the southwest of Paldea.
Yeah, it's under Alfornata.
Yes. And I had a friend who didn't know the cave was there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Played through the whole game, didn't realize the cave was there.
See, that's cool. I can appreciate that. We've got Undella Town based on the Hamptons in Suffolk County. Have you been here?
Oh, yes.
Is it not? Is it really? Oh, yeah. Oh,
yes. It's
like a big vacation area.
If they're gonna make a Black and White 3, there's a lot of stuff that I think they could do with Long Island to kind of pull inspiration from. 100%.
Undella Town, site of one of the coolest places in a Pokemon game, the Marine Tube.
Yeah,
and a house that you should avoid at all costs.
Yes, a house that you want to make sure you got a good team before you walk in.
It's this one, right? It's you can't see my mouse.
Yeah, I can't see your mouse, but it's the one next to the Marine Tube.
If you're pointing to the house to the right of the Marine Tube.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary. Yeah. We got Burbank City based on Jersey City, New Jersey. So this is one of the locations that sticks out to me the most when I think of Unova. I'm like, this feels so crucial to the Unova region, and it was not even available until a year after the original release. This place has so much personality. I love Roxy. I love the little area underneath the town. I forget what it's called, but like that's where you get Magby and you can get an early Elekid.
The Burbank complex, yeah.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite locations in Unova.
So like a fun fact about this place, it's kind of one of the first instances of voice acting in a Pokemon game. This whole game was. Because when you're in her gym, you hear like singing.
M-A-N or O-N.
It's Owen.
It's O-N. And then she
goes,
goes,
Dusty
Pokemon!
doesn't know how to spell Pokemon. Good God, Dusty.
Oh man, I do love that so much. We got Humalau City. And Linky, if you got anything to say, just chime in. I have not been to any of these locations. So we got Humalau City.
I will say Humalau as that's a lot of ground that one city is covering.
Yeah.
Really?
That's it. Yeah, I would say
it says it's based on Long Island.
It is. Yeah, it's
but
just.
All we
I think
get
it's
is
just
this.
the fact that it's on the water is why they pull the inspiration from Long Island.
Yeah.
You could like almost make an argument that the marine tube is sort of like there's an underpass connecting Long Island to the city. You drive under. You drive under one of the rivers to get into Manhattan. So there's a way to get there without taking a bridge. So they built that in as inspiration with Black and White 2, is they built an underwater pass, just like the Manhattan area has.
I remember it always reminded me of Pacific-Log and Hoenn.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, it really is just like an island with a bunch of... It felt more tropical than anything. So, like, that's the thing. With a lot of these, they've been Pokemonified, but I'm like, there's no way you're going to see this in the northeast of the United States.
There's no tropics on
There's no
Long
tropics here. Not at all, yeah. That's interesting. But I didn't even think of that, because we do have those underwater tunnels. Like, they made them look really pretty, as if you're like at an aquarium, but we have those in Boston as well.
They're not as pretty in real life. Let's just...
No, it's literally just...
out there.
It's like an underwater... Or it's an underground highway. That's all it is. Just a bunch of concrete. So we've got Nuvema Town based on Howard Beach in Queens, and this looks cute. This looks like a Massachusetts town.
Yeah,
I like this a lot.
Starting town in the first game.
Yeah, which again you don't see this in the starting town. The starting town looks like New Bark Town or whatever.
Oh, I love being able to walk outside and the P-Dove just all flew away.
Yeah.
Or it's funny because now, like, that's kind of standard Pokemon stuff, like that Pokemon in the overworld. But I remember back then...
It looks different in that art style.
Right.
In that 3D, 2D art style,
Yeah, and back then, too, it was, because it hadn't been done before, it was crazy. And then the fact that, the sprites didn't do much, they just kind of did this. But, like, they were moving,
Yes.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
By Black and White 2, they had mastered the 3D, 2D style.
Bro, I guess that's another question we can get into. Like, do you think that they will make a side game in that style?
From your lips to God's ears, if they would give me exactly what I wanted. Yes. But I don't know. I don't know how much I see them abandoning the 3D style. At least a Game Freak developed game at this point.
But to me, I'm like, Game Freak thrives with 3D. Why would they not want to go back and pay homage, right, to what their roots were, but also to like make a game that's like, I mean, if they're gonna make a game, it's gonna be this. Or actually, no, you know what? Soul Silver has said before that Gen 6 would be a perfect time to give us an experimental Gen 2D pixel game, right? Because that's the first gen that was only in 3D. So that's actually kind of nice. I could see that too. So we got, last but not least, Victory Road is apparently based on Bronx Park in the Bronx. I did not think that was
I
true
could see
at
Enn's
all.
Castle being based on that building that's there.
Enn's Castle, I think, is a lot more reality than it, especially because Victory Road changes between the two games. Yeah. It's completely different.
Oh, it's referring to the Black 2, White 2 one then.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the article here. I have a list of places that I think would be really fun to add. Some of them are stretch, some of them are just based on like, things that exist already that I would like to see added on, or highlighted in the Unova region, like things that already exist in Unova. Do you have something you want to suggest to us right now?
Oh, I came prepared.
Let's go. I'm so excited.
I got receipts. I'm
like
ready
I
to
said,
go.
you live in New York. If anyone's gonna know, it's gonna be you.
I wanted to pull up the map because I think I absolutely love that they added so many new towns and locations in Black and White 2. And if they were to ever do a Black and White 3, it's such a great thing that they chose to do and add brand new stuff because it opens up all the potential in the world if we ever return. The most obvious one to me is Niagara Falls. That was
on my list. Yeah.
It's one of the most iconic landmarks in New York, one of the most iconic landmarks in the United States. And it gives Game Freak the perfect opportunity to quietly tease at a different region without ever mentioning it, because you have one side of Niagara Falls that's in New York in the US and the other side that's in Canada. So they could pay homage by one random NPC to a region that we don't know about. And then you got basically the confirmation that there's some sort of Canadian northern region that we'll probably never visit, but they can at least hint to it.
So do something kind of cute. Just have around there you can find stereotypical Canada Pokemon like Bidoof, Stantler.
Do you remember when X and Y came out and people were talking about the moon dial? I think it was the moon dial in.
It was the
Kalos?
sundial, but someone
sundial
mentions a moon dial.
Yes. And people were like, oh, what region is the moon dial in? So imagine a scenario where you're looking at Niagara Falls from the Unova side and off into the distance, the pixelated, not fully loading in distance.
Yes.
You see a landmass and you will have hundreds of thousands of videos made over the next few years about, look, we can see a future region out in the distance. And it's
Oh, that's epic.
So cool.
I still want to know what is in the north east corner of the Paldean map. I don't think it's either Kitakami or the Indigo disc. Yeah. So that's something else entirely. It's definitely Kalos or whatever's in between that and Kalos.
South Kalos.
They called me crazy, but it's so true. So a question that I kind of have. So obviously most of Unova is really is inspired by these locations right here, right? Mm-hmm. That's mostly what I believe it's based on. However, I think there's also a ton of Pokemon in inspiration from all over the United States in Unova, I believe. So I think I have no problem with this. I think Niagara Falls is a perfect candidate for a new region or a new location in a region. Let me pull up the Unova map.
The way they could do Niagara Falls, I think it would be one of two things. They've already shown, what is the name of, oh my goodness, the town that is completely separated from the rest of the map where the trains are held, Anvil Town. They've already shown that they're willing to kind of pull you off of the main part of the map. So maybe there's a train track that takes you to Niagara Falls. So they can say this is a little bit ways off, a little bit off the beaten path. Or like with the rest of Unova, they take some creative liberties and just put it close to the rest of the regional map. Mm-hmm. I think either of those is possible.
Yeah, there's Anvil Town up at the top left.
Yeah, so they could have it
just none of this
somewhere
is,
up here.
Yeah, none of this is 1-for-1 scale. So they could just say
there's
Niagara
really
Falls is inspiration. Yeah,
there's winter mountains and a volcano and a desert. Mm-hmm. None of that just for anyone who lives internationally. We don't have that in the Northeast.
I remember the desert people speculated. It's kind of dark. They speculated it was based off Ground Zero.
Yeah,
that's dark. I don't really want to talk about that. That's scary.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I don't think I've heard that.
You hadn't heard that?
Because I've heard it mentioned a couple times. I think it's just more that it's a creative liberty because every Pokemon game has to include
that's what I think.
A desert area, a cold area, a mountainous area that has some sort of lava or magma. So I think it's more so just a creative liberty.
That's what I'd say too, because I don't think Pokemon would go that route.
No.
Yeah, and this area also takes a lot of inspiration from the more, what is it, like subterranean? Is that the term? The more arid regions of the United States.
Yes.
So that's always the inspo that I've seen.
And I love when they call back because the region of XD Gale of Darkness and Coliseum is based on Arizona.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So more of that temperate, arid climate that they've gone to in the past.
Isn't it also
That wasn't even on my list, but that should be somewhere that they revisit.
If they listen, you wanna make me happier than you've ever made me. You throw one random NPC or one TV
they
show.
mentioned Team Snag'em.
They make some obscure reference to a part of the world that is arid and desert. That's all they need to do.
Yeah, my big brother lives in Arizona, or they say My big brother lives in Ore,
region.
and you go, what?
They is it because there are islands off of Castolia that can only be based off boats. Obviously, the one where Victini's found is based off Liberty Isle.
Yes.
Isn't the other one? Isn't that supposed to be based off like a World Trade Center type thing? Because it's like about like global trade.
Yeah. That actually, that makes sense. Here, I think I do also want to point this out. This is something that I did not notice for a very long time, but I'm pretty sure. How do I see this right here? I'm pretty sure that. Is it right here? I think it's right here. So this map, right? We got these two rivers. One.
I know what you're doing.
Two. I think this lines up with.
Yes.
Is it right here? 1, 2.
Yes.
You got this. You got this, and you got this. I think that's what it is.
People forget that Manhattan is an island. It's not connected to the rest of North America at all. There's rivers.
Is it really?
There's rivers splitting every single angle. You have to get there via a bridge or an underground tunnel.
It is.
Yeah, look,
totally
zoom
right.
in, Dusty. There's a river right there. Like, yeah.
You've got the Hudson River that disconnects it.
So this was our island region. We got an island region, and then we got Alola.
Is there a Central Park in Unova? Like a Central Park stand-in, rather? Like
it's where you it's where you get Eevee.
Well, yes, there are
that's
smaller,
so small. That's like a
Why
small
would that
park
not
in
count?
New York.
I love that. That's my favorite.
That's a small park in New York.
That's like a top 3 location in Unova. That is so cool. You go through the disgusting, grimer-filled, Rattata-filled, Zubat-filled sewers.
But I would say that's more likely to be like a small park in New York and not Central Park, because Central Park is huge.
The thing is, I never know how to get to the Interlink. It's literally just like it's
you
in the
had
middle
to
of the
like
map.
from the bottom screen. You just teleported there.
It's the part of it's one of my criticisms of the game is that when you look at the map, there's like
so much
bridges connecting you to the Interlink, but you have to kind of travel there via your cross transceiver.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe we could see us actually be able to go there now.
Yeah. So I mentioned this last week, but now that I have the map up, I think it'd be really cool is if whatever game we get for Unova, if it is some sort of, I think it could be difficult to make it fully open world considering how much they'd have to pack in, but I think they could do it like a Legends Arceus style layout. But instead of having to fast travel back to the Interlink or whatever the central point is, let's say you're in this corner, or how about this? Let's say you're over here on this snowy mountain, right? There's a bridge right here. So this whole snowy mountain is wide open, and it's just like Legends. It's an entire area, and as you travel over the bridge, right, all of this starts to like fade away and like despawn, while the next area starts to spawn. So all of a sudden it feels like it's open world, but it's kind of like segmented off, right? Like because the bridges are so long, they would take time to like cross over. So you can either like fast travel, which is just a classic loading screen, or as you travel over the bridge, like there's a loading thing happening in the background.
I would say I'd be fine with the like it actually cut to dark loading screen, like kind of like when you go in and out of Mesa Goza, just as long as it isn't like Legends, where when I have to go to a new area, I have to teleport back to Jubilife, and then I have to teleport to the new area. That got so tedious.
It really did.
I'm more than okay with if you wanted to use every single bridge in the Unova region as a loading screen for a different part of the map. I would have absolutely no problem with that.
Yeah.
0.
Is that how old Pokemon games used to work? Like I remember old Pokemon games as you go into the bridge, right? Yeah. Okay.
The bridge, it would have a loading screen on each side of the bridge, and then the bridge itself would be a separate entity. So you'd enter onto the bridge, and they would have a loading screen. You'd go
because they had
off
the little
bridge.
gates separating you from the bridge.
Great.
Before we move, you've a light bulb has gone off on my head.
Yeah,
as we were talking about the Interlink specifically. Gather around, children. Let me tell you a story. So the Interlink in Black and White and Black and White 2, was connected the two games. If you had save data from the old game and you connected it to Black and White 2, you would have brand new events that you could play out, and it would connect different parts of Unova's story. We were talking about earlier on this podcast how you would get some of the newer forms of old Unova Pokemon into the Unova region. What if, when you have save data from the rest of these Switch games, Legends Arceus, Scarlet and Violet, Sword and Shield, and you have the Interlink enabled, you play out story beats that connect to these older games, and that is how you get the ability to capture these new Pokemon of old Unova forms. And you do it through the Interlink.
I love that so much. I've got a light bulb now. What about the Dream World?
The Dream World could come back. You could build...
And doesn't that connect perfectly with Paradox Pokemon?
Not only that, but Pokemon has this thing that nobody likes where they take features and put them behind Pokemon Home in modern games. What if the Interlink is added into, or the Dream World is added into Pokemon Home as a new update once we get the Unova games?
That's a great idea and way better than using my web browser, which is like so not immersive.
And that would mean that you could access the Dream World on your smartphone as well from Pokemon Home as well, which we didn't have in the old version.
That's a beautiful idea.
But the downside is looking at Pokemon Home's history, and Linky, you've done a video on this.
I'm writing down the video idea. Don't even. I'll have the criticism.
How long after the Black and White 3 Legends Cure, whatever it is, how long after that will we finally get this update for Home?
8 months.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I feel like Gen 5 has so many possibilities. I feel like it feels like just feels like a full region. It's got new things that they can add to the Gen 9 engine, to the Gen 9 ecosystem. It feels so full. I felt like Gen 8 was dope, and we got the DLC, and that was fun. But even with Gen 8, even with all the Sinnoh games we got, they felt like add-ons. Let's Go felt like an add-on, right? I feel like if they came out with a Gen 5 game, it's got potential to be like the new hub, separate from Paldea, superior to Paldea, right? Kind of like how what Heart Gold Soul Silver felt like in Gen 8 and Gen 4. Anyways, okay. So hit us with another location.
Before I'll hit you with another location, I do want to mention this. If they love to pay homage to the game that came before the newest one.
Yeah. Right.
The crater where you find Kyurem in Black and White 2. Imagine there's just a little NPC there that makes reference to another crater in a far-off region.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
you're right. Going on in that crater.
Oh, that's
Can we have the Area Zero music still play? And
you could have a slight, one part of whatever the theme is an homage to the Area Zero theme.
Oh, that is so
even if
cool.
it's just the beginning, the little singing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's what that music will play when you fight Cynthia.
Yes.
So hit us with another. I do have locations too, but I'd love to hear some of yours.
So it depends on how far away they want to go. We've talked about Niagara Falls. They could retcon it and make it a little bit closer because obviously not one for one. But they talked about on that list you pulled up Long Island and some of the references to Long Island. But Long Island is known for its vineyards. It's known for so many different wineries and vineyards out east on the two forks of the island. So what if they took the...
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
Yep, sorry.
Yes.
Right over here.
Right there. The North Fork and the South Fork. It's the most rural part of the island. When you go further west towards the city, it's a lot more suburban, but this area is a lot more rural, a lot more open fields, farmland, vineyards. So if they created an area of the region that was more open, and it was inspired by these vineyards and by the Montauk part of the island, which has a massive lighthouse.
Yeah, I was just looking at that right here.
That whole part of the island could be its own mini region within Unova, with the vineyard areas, the open fields, and
Lake
the
Montauk
Lighthouse. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a major tourist spot too.
I can see it. There's a Gurney's Montauk Resort and Seawater Spa. Okay, that could be like a whole thing. There's
field trip to Gurney's Montauk and Resort and Seawater Spa.
Yeah, and there's this island right here.
Yep.
Oh, Plum Island.
Mm-hmm. If Lumios, you had mentioned the two islands off of Castelia City, the one with the World Trade Center reference, and then Liberty Garden or Liberty Island. They could take a lot of inspiration from some of these islands that are off the coast of Long Island and make a bunch of smaller islands. There's Shelter Island, there's Block Island, there's so many different ones that they could take reference to.
I like that a lot. So the thing that I'm trying to think about, it's like with so we got right. So this is I think the Black 2 White 2 map. Originally it was like a lot smaller. This was kind of just like it was just smaller. And then what kind of happened is the map zoomed out, and then we got access to these towns right here, and we got some stuff up here, over here. So I would imagine the map would zoom out again. Where do you think that would show up? The lighthouse that you just
I don't think it zoomed out. I think they just added it in.
Oh, it was frozen. There was a bunch of like frozen.
No, that was in Black and White 2. They froze the starting area of the first one.
Yeah, the land existed to the west. It was the southwest, that portion, that's Aspertia City, where you start off in Black 2 and White 2. I think they could expand to the northwest, specifically where you have Anvil Town off to the side. All of that, just foresty location, that could work. One of the things that they did a great job in with Black 2 and White 2 is they made it a lot less linear. So you actually flew across the center of the region to Lentimas Town, and the Reversal Mountain was also right there, before you backtracked and went to Opelucid City and a bunch of those other cities that are connected to the west. So if they wanted to kind of expand upon the areas around Lentimas Town, I think that would be really cool, because it's one of the most underrated parts of the region. You have the haunted house outside of Lentimas Town, where you get reference to Cresselia and the Lunar Ring, or the Lunar Wing. So I think that could be expanded upon in a game. You could make more references to ancient Sinnoh and Hisui and how Cresselia connects to it.
They're not going to do that in this game.
They wouldn't, but maybe you'd have literally like an NPC.
Yeah,
be like,
I could see that. Yeah,
I'm from a far off region, where Cresselia is.
They do in Paldea in the history class. They've got a picture of the Hisui Pokeball, Professor Laventon, the Galaxy Exhibition Building, or whatever it is building.
I'm sure if we're working off of the idea that these are the games coming after Scarlet and Violet, it's 90% of the references are going to be to Paldea, but they could always.
No, they could. I think you're right. I think they could definitely say some stuff. I like the idea of the map even zooming out just a little bit more, or at least being able to move. And then right down here, up here it's all forest. It's kind of like that's canon now, just because that's what has been existing in the map. But down here, there could be like a whole lip, and we don't even know about it.
Yes,
there could be like a whole thing over here with the lighthouses on the tip. Maybe up here, maybe like right here, right here. That's Niagara Falls.
In my head, I was like, let's expand northward. But the fact that even where Aspertia City is, you have that little mountainous region on the map. If we expanded that and you saw another landmass that was in the ocean right there, I think that would be perfect. There's an area where you can expand on that section. It's unfortunate that the Nacrane City part where you originally started in the first game, Nuvema Town, that area, that's, at least on the artwork, is completely cut off. So there's no landmass there. But with Aspertia City, it's part of that land to the west.
They could add islands, though. I didn't mean to interrupt you. They could add islands based on what you had said. Where is this? There's a bunch of islands right here, right? And you're saying, Manhattan is an island. Look at Shelter Island. There's an island here. They could just make Montauk an island, right? So that is also an option.
If you go on the south of Long Island, back on that map,
this one.
Yes, go down and to the west. That whole strip right there is Fire Island.
Oh,
it's a barrier island for storms. Bro. They can take inspiration from Fire Island. There's another lighthouse there. They can do more bridges, which they love to do in Unova.
Yeah. Oh, there's Long Beach too.
Yep.
Dusty, I will say, if you look at the map, that area that's forest at the top, they could always change that and make it not forest. Because if you look, I just sent you in the chat on this little room that we're recording in.
Yeah.
It's the map from Black and White, and it's forest where Burbank City and stuff was. It is,
yeah. And plus, forest. if it's a Black and White 3 type concept, they could always say time is gone. There's been more development. Right. Like, they can fudge it a little bit if they need
Especially too, I saw Jan on Twitter left this comment on our video last week. The reason that Black 2 and White 2 takes place 2 years after Unova or 2 years after Black and White, is because the game released 2 years after Black and White in Japan. So
that's cool.
hypothetically, if there was a black 3, white 3, and they stuck to that same formula, it would be, 10, 11, however many years it's been since black 2 and white 2.
That's cool. That is crazy. That's a huge time gap. If that's actually the reasoning.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about that is, so if you look black and white, and 2 years later, black 2 and white 2 happened. In 2 years, we started to see Pokemon that weren't in the region before starting to appear, past Pokemon.
Yeah,
so in 10 years, I could believe that there's regional variants in here.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
know that
So we didn't even talk
new evolutions, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, bro, we didn't even talk about that. That's a great point. Like, we have gens, I guess they could be even older generation Pokemon, but yeah, we could be talking about Gen 6, 7, 8, 9 Pokemon that have moved to Unova or have been imported to Unova that have then evolved or gotten new evolutions or have changed into regional forms. That's a really cool idea. That is really cool. Absolutely. I mean, that's a long period of time. There's also a bunch of like characters. So I think we talked about this a little bit last week, Zach. Like, where are the protagonists, right, of Black and White? They disappear, right? They're no longer present. You would think that in Black 2, White 2, they would be some sort of end game boss. And a theory, I don't know if we talked about this or if I saw comments, but what if they went through time with Ingo, right? What if they are in some sort of Legends reality, right?
The Emmett piece.
Is it Emmett or Ingo?
So it's Ingo and Emmett.
Left.
It's two of them.
Emmett is the guy who's still in the present.
I know that there's been a couple people that pointed to the fact that one of them time traveled to say, well, in a future game, we're totally going to see the other one end up somewhere. So if we get, I guess this is more so my hope of a Legends Johto game, and we see Emmett in that one. But I would love to see a Black and White 3 where Ingo and Emmett have made it back to the present, and they reference the fact that they kind of were apart for a while because they had been pulled through time.
Wow. I think it would be darker, but at the same time cooler if Emmett was here and Ingo isn't. And that so you get to see Emmett living his life without Ingo.
Do you guys think there's some sort of connection between the time travel that Arceus caused in... Well, I guess it was not just Arceus. Who was causing all like the wormholes in Legends Arceus? That was Giratina, right?
What do you mean? You mean the distortion rifts?
Yeah.
I think that just happens because like space-time is just unstable.
Yeah, I think their explanation was that they were popping up because of the unstable space-time distortions, and one of those is also what pulled you into Hisui.
Yeah, but you don't think that could possibly be caused by something maybe in the story of either this, a Black and White game, or maybe from all the time travel shenanigans of Scarlet and Violet, right? Like maybe that is something that triggered the whole story of Scarlet and Violet, and why why Sada and Turo like decided to go through time. It's like, oh, this is something that we can control. Let's experiment and let's try to find a solution to this.
You've got to ask yourself, what in-universe reason is it for Ingo being the one who was pulled through from Unova? What's the connection there? There are connections between Unova and Sinnoh. You can get... there's a cave in the Unova region that says that through underground passages connects to the Sinnoh region.
I think that's Reversal.
No, I think it's the Cave Cave of Being or something, and you can actually get the Lake Trio there.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. I always forget you can get the Lake Trio there.
Where is it? Hang on.
There's even just, the fact that I guess this might be more of a connection to Johto, but the events for Celebi and the Shiny Beast trigger events in Unova.
So, in the Unova region, right off of the starting area, there's a cave that you can only access once you have Surf, and it's the Cave of Being. And you can only get there once you defeat the champion, and Professor Juniper is there. And Yuxi, Mesprit, and Azelf appear in that cave after you speak to the professor. And the lore in-game at the time was that it's a cave that leads to the Sinnoh region. So there's a direct connection in the lore and in the mythos between Unova and Sinnoh via that cave.
Wow. I did not know that. That's really cool. Is it right here? Is it this one?
No, it's between Burbank and Flockacy Town.
So the western part where you start in Black and White 2. Down a little bit.
Oh, I see.
That area. There's a cave right there. Yep.
Oh, interesting.
That cave, you can get the 3 legendaries. or the 3.
That's really cool. That's really cool. All right, here, let me tell you one of my locations. So this is where I get a little creepy. Not creepy, just like reachy. This is where I get a little reachy. Actually, no, I'll tell you some good ones first. The Catskills. I got a buddy who lives in the Catskills. That seems to be a beautiful location in New York. Very new.
Catskills?
That's what it's called. It's like a New Hampshire type beautiful foliage location.
There's 2 different mountain ranges in New York State. There's the Catskill Mountains, which are technically not mountains, but they're mountains. And then you also have the Adirondack Mountains up to the north. And that is the coldest, most northern part of the state. So
that could be what both of these mountain ranges are based on, actually.
Listen, I would love it. In my perfect new Pokemon game, you add new locations dotted around these 2 mountain ranges that Unova already has. Because in actuality,
there's
the
so much stuff
around
over here,
mountains are huge.
Yeah.
So that would be great.
You could add so much stuff over here. Honestly, like the whole there's so much stuff that they could add. Here's another one. Cooperstown. I thought this was fun. The National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. Maybe that sounds a little silly. It's like, why would they introduce a baseball town? Well, because there were tons of NPCs who played basketball and who played baseball.
They have a baseball stadium.
They have the 2 stadiums in Nimbasa City already. So they make reference to American sports.
Can't you see there being, I didn't even think this could be possible, but with the Black 3, White 3, we've already, we already know that there's more than 8 gyms available in Unova. Who's to say they don't add another 4 gyms? And one of the gym leaders is in a town based on Cooperstown, and he's a baseball player, and all of his little NPCs are the NPC, like the baseball player NPCs throughout the game. I think that.
I mean, who's to say that in a Black 3 and White 3 they don't add in a new side gimmick that isn't Pokemon musicals, and it's something to do with those sports stadiums? They already have it right there.
Dude,
you play soccer and
in Black and White 2, they already make a change. They add in the movie theater part of Burbank City and the Burbank movie complex.
Studios,
So they've already shown that in each game they'll add in a new kind of side gimmick that is brand new. So who's to say in a Black and White 3 they don't add in another one?
Yeah,
I
could see that.
It's just like the picnic or camping feature. You can play it because like you can play soccer and picnicking on
They've got that little area outside of Nimbasa City to the west, the part before you get on the bridge. They've got the trailer there. That's where Alder is. You have kind of like the campground-esque area. So they already have a spot where they could introduce something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Let's, what about, I had Niagara Falls. There's plenty of lakes and national parks. Actually, you already mentioned Toronto. I thought Toronto was like, I'm like, that's right there. They probably could make some sort of connection.
And that's what would be. They make reference to a faraway region, and then they don't tell us anything else. Absolutely.
You made a really.
And
good
everybody
point
says Gen 10 is Canada.
Exactly. Yes.
It won't be, but then they'll still think it.
I think Vermont is a really great location that they could add. Right. They obviously have proven that they're not afraid of introducing places that are outside of New York. We have all these locations in New Jersey. Where's the map right here? So we got New York. This is obviously Manhattan. That's what Unova's based on. But there's inspiration from all of this area in New York, right? The New York State, greater New York State. From my understanding, as someone who's born in New Hampshire, Vermont is where all of the New Yorkers go to vacation, where New Hampshire is where all the Massachusetts people go to vacation. So in my mind, I would love a town that's a little sleepy, it's like the little Shire, right? You got Lake Champlain, all of these sailboats. I've been there. I think it's beautiful in the summertime. I would love another location like that.
You see on your map right there, Saratoga Springs?
Yeah, let's go. Let's zoom
in
down.
on Saratoga. That's where the Saratoga race course is. So imagine a location in a Black and White 3 where you have all of the horse-type Pokemon running a great race. You have the Mudsdale, the Rapidash. They import these Pokemon from other regions to take part in the Great Unovan Race.
I love that. That'd be really cool. Have you been to that?
Yes.
That's cool.
It's a sleepy, almost like a Massachusetts-esque town, but also has a race course.
Yeah, so that's a great idea. My other idea was, why not give us a Boston? What is the ultimate rival to New York? It's Boston. How cool would that be, right? If there's almost like not the evil teams, but like that could be like the dark type trainers or something, right? Like kind of like
Definitely
that
could.
town in Galar, or I'm thinking of like Po Town. Like,
Give us the Cheers bar.
yeah.
I want to walk in and there's a Pokemon version of where everybody knows your name playing.
I think I think they could make a town that was inspired by both Cooperstown for the Baseball Hall of Fame, but then also maybe just like Boston, Massachusetts, and
What
then
if-
you have all of it's basically just a giant sports town, and it's like the rival.
You already have a piece of Unova lore, which is the World Tournament, which honors champions and gym leaders of other regions. So what if they take the Cooperstown inspiration, maybe don't specifically do baseball, but there's a Hall of Fame there which recognizes champions and powerful trainers from the Pokemon world's history. And that's the hall that's there. And through it, you get to meet a lot of these older characters.
Yeah, I think that'd be super cool. Lumi, you had some notes about the World Championship, the Pokemon World Tournament.
World
right?
Tournament, yeah. Like, would they? Because now, you know, at the time, they did the gym leaders from Kanto through Unova, because that's what existed. Would they now add Kalos gym leaders? Well, there's no Alolan gym leaders, but Galar gym leaders. What's the region we just played? Paldea gym leaders. You know, the champions. Would they add those? You know.
What if they flipped it and did? So in the original games, when you went to the World Tournament, you battled a lot of champions and gym leaders and rivals from past games. But what if in this one you battled the champions and rivals and gym leaders and trial captains of the games that came after the original Unova games? So you've got Kalos, you could do Hoenn guys again because you have Oras. You have
you do Kanto because Let's Go.
Kanto, you could do Let's Go. Wait a minute. You actually have all the regions except for Johto.
Oh, because they're gonna save that for the Johto game. I see. The thing is, okay, these are all great ideas, and I think that's something that's would not even be that difficult to implement. Like, you literally just need to create a model, and then the Pokemon are already created. That's not a hard thing to add. But why did they not add that into Gen 7 with the battle tree? Right? They only added in like a handful of characters, and they weren't
battle
even
tree
like.
is disappointing.
It's so disappointing. I'm like, you added Wally. How is that canonical? Like,
and
everyone
Gary
is
and Ash age or Red
they
and Blue
age, but
age.
no one else ages, right? So, and I don't know if that's like, it's just Game Freak logic.
I would chalk it up to an oversight.
Probably. They didn't. This podcast didn't exist. They didn't understand our concerns.
Because
and
Cynthia is the same. She looks the same, but Cynthia is also a lot older than Red and Blue would have been. So there would be more of a change in appearance for Red and Blue than there would be for Cynthia. But Wally is also young. So why doesn't he have a change at all?
Well, now with Wally, that would be because he was specifically Oris Wally, and Oris took place at the same time as X and Y.
True. And you have,
but now with Cynthia,
you're in the Mega timeline, so
right.
yeah.
The truth is, with Cynthia, they just knew if we touch Cynthia, we change anything about her, the fans kill us. So they,
yeah.
Well, they didn't. They made him a villain. They didn't kill him for that.
I do want to say one thing, but then I don't know. I want to go into so many different directions. In Sun and Moon, they did introduce a new version, a new art of Colress in Grimsley, which was really cool. And that made you think, okay, like what does this mean, right? I feel like we should do another episode at some point with maybe when Soul's back about all these characters and all these theories, because like I feel like Colress could have something to do with the plot. I feel like he has to be back involved.
Oh yeah, he was kind of important to the Ultra Sun Ultra Moon plot. Honestly, he's the one who gave the device that allowed you to fuse Necrozma.
Man, that's crazy. So okay, I'm looking at the map again, and when I zoom out. I would love to say, let's go to Boston, let's go to New Hampshire. That sounds great, right? Let's go to like random Portland, Maine. But I think if we look at the map, right, we got New York, we got Long Island, and then look right here. You just keep going in Pokemon Land. We got Nantucket Island, which is a super famous location in Massachusetts. And I feel like if we're gonna get anything in Massachusetts, that probably would be what it is, because all you have to do is just tack it on. Right here, right? Like, or I guess if this is Long Island, yeah. Or if this is here, you just make an island right here. It's like a new location that they get at.
You even could. You see how with on Delatown it goes out, then up, and then back in. You could do it the opposite way.
That's true. Yeah.
I'd love to know where that Blueberry Academy Safari Zone is located in the ocean. outside of the Paldea region.
Because
I understand that there's an ocean disconnecting these two places in the real world. You have the coast of Europe, and then you have New York. But it is the same ocean in between them. So what if there is a reference to the Unova region in where the Blueberry Academy is operating? Because they're out in the ocean.
Like, it could be anywhere. It could literally be
real
anywhere.
world Azores. Like, that's about the placement of them.
So I don't know. How far off are they? How into the ocean? How off of the coast? And how off of Paldea are they actually? We have no idea at this point.
Linky, I have an answer for you.
We got nothing.
So this is Unova.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
That's
the Azores. And this is the Azores. Where is it?
It's like right the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. So
I don't even think, is that the Azores? I think that was
I think it was
even the Azores.
Where is it? Up here?
Because the Azores, no, it's really in the middle. That
no, that's
yeah,
the
that
Azores.
is. That is.
Doesn't that stay right there?
That is, yeah.
So it's right here. This is Unova, this is the Azores, and this is Paldea. So, and I think what they would do is just squish that together, and all of a sudden, right? If this is look at this looks like Unova, Paldea. Well, that was a little generous. And then it's just right here in the middle. I feel like they could definitely make it connected in some way.
What's the map that I think somebody edited together of Paldea, Galar, and Kalos? Just slightly off to the side. Stick a little ocean right there.
Why not? I mean,
then you have Unova.
They already.
We're never gonna get all of the United States as a region. So you know,
which is
not in our
fine.
lifetime at least.
No.
So the other location that I think it's not really like a real world location. Do you have more places on your map on your list?
I did have one that I wanted to throw out there, and it's not specifically a brand new location. Yeah. But I just think that there could be a lot of really good stuff that they could do about incorporating more of what they talked about or what they referenced with Lentimas Town into a future game, because the town is so different from the rest of Unova. They attach it on the map, like it's connected to the three other routes on your world map that you can pull up on the town map in the game, but you can't actually travel there. So even though it's connected, it's not. So I just think expanding upon that part of Unova, which isn't directly connected, so I think it could give Game Freak some room to build some more out there. I think that would be interesting.
Lentimas Town is like where you get like Skarmory. It's like Midwestern, but it's
you
like
fly from the what's the city with Mistralton. You fly from Mistralton to Lentimas Town. You fly across the region, over the Interlink, everywhere.
Yeah, so right here.
Yep.
Yeah, so I feel like what could happen. Yeah, that's a good point, because then they could add some stuff on the left side in the middle, right? They could pad out the Interlink a little bit more. Okay. I think that's really cool, man. I think that's really cool.
I hope we get the route below the original Victory Road. I think it was Route 10. I hope we get that back.
They could
because in Black 2 and White 2, I mean that because the music there. Oh man.
Imagine
the best music
being able to explore the ruins of the Plasma Castle in an open world game.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's like I don't really know if it'd be like fully open world. I mean, I feel like I don't know. I've like lost
it's
a little hope.
It's Sword and Shield's engine. It doesn't even have to be Scarlet and Violet's.
Yeah.
Like
if it's Game Freak doing it, it's gonna be. I would be absolutely stunned if it's not either the open world of a Scarlet and Violet or the open zone of a Legends Arceus, depending on what it is. If it's Game Freak developing it, and if we do believe that they're fully committed to like 3D and this is what Pokemon is for largely forever at this point, then I would be surprised if it's not at least more open than it previously had been.
Yeah,
how do you
think? I
think?
100% agree.
Do you think we would actually get? So we're just jumping to Black 3, White 3. We're just jumping to a sequel, but surely they would have to make some sort of remake of Black, White, and Black 2, White 2, right? And how do you think they would go about doing that? Because it's tricky. Because you don't write it. It's tricky. I thought maybe like they make a Black 2, White 2, but or they make a Black and White with the whole map of Black 2, White 2, and then all those locations are post game.
Game Freak didn't remake Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum.
No.
They made a spiritual remake, a retelling in the form of Legends Arceus. So they've shown, we're assuming that it's Game Freak working on whatever this is going to be, because you can't predict outsourcing, and if Ilka's involved, like it's a completely separate thing. If
Right.
Game Freak is revisiting the Unova region, I don't think it's a straight remake. I think it's something
I agree.
different.
So you think there's gonna be one game?
Maybe.
They could, right? Like, I mean, there's been plenty of games for Gen
Make
3.
it Pokemon Gray, and it
I
is
think
just a
it's-
spiritual Black
I think
3,
it's
White
too
3.
on the nose to say that they would ever create Black and White 3. Like, I just don't think they're that.
Yeah, they're not gonna. They're not. Yeah, you're right. They're not gonna call it that because you can't sell that, right? 20 years.
I mean,
later,
this
it's
is
like
this is the development
played it.
studio that said the reason they didn't make a Pokemon Gray was because it didn't fit in with like the narrative they were trying to tell with Black and White and the opposites. This is the development team that didn't make a Pokemon Z, even though they rebranded the anime to X, Y, and Z, almost like those
crazy.
plans existed.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard to predict exactly what form it takes, but Game Freak never remade Sinnoh.
Yeah.
So everything's on the table at this point.
that is. Yeah,
I
that
could
is really
see
interesting.
it's just they call it like Pokemon Gray so that you can market it like it's its own game, but it is a spiritual successor
Yeah.
to
It
Black 2 and White 2. So it is basically Black 3 and White 3, but we're not marketing that way because, again, you can't really market that to people who can't play the game because it's now
Yep.
$140.
That's a
and
very
a
good
lot of the
point about a
cartridges don't
sequel.
work.
I mean, think about other games that Nintendo has put out on the Switch. They're coming out with Pikmin 4 this month. They've brought 1, 2, and 3 to the Switch, so players have all the games. If you're putting a Black 3 and White 3, a sequel to what we already have, is Game Freak going to feel comfortable not necessarily guaranteeing that fans can play the story? Like, I don't know.
I'd love dream
Legends
scenario.
Arceus. Dusty, you were talking about it. We got BDSP a couple months prior. We were able to experience the original story and then get like the spiritual
That's kind of what I'm
continuation.
thinking. I'm like, is it important for them to preface or like to reintroduce the story of Black and White and Black
be.
2, White 2? Because I played Black 2, White 2 a lot, but I do think Black and White is a completely different. It's a different plot. Team
It is.
Plasma feels different. It's a different experience because you don't have all these additional Pokemon. It is a different story. It's one and then a sequel. So I think they either have to give us I think they either have to like reintroduce Black and White and Black 2, White 2, because those are stories in the story, right? In the full Unova game. And then they have to give us another sequel, which is Black 3, White 3, to complete the story. Or they say, let's give you a different story, a different perspective, a different timeline, right? Just something separate. And then this is where I go, what Riddler Koo said, he said there's going to be something called, or he said there could, he used the term Paradox Unova. And to me, that says alternate reality Unova.
Yep.
What would
Here's
happen
my
if Team Plasma won?
I have a fear. Can I lay out my fear, my
let's do it.
concern?
Let's do it.
I have a hard time seeing a future where we get remakes of Black and White, and then we get remakes of Black and White 2.
It makes no sense.
I struggle to
Absolutely.
see a world where that's what Game Freak chooses to do, because that's a lot of years that you're devoting in between multiple generations.
Yeah,
to going
you're
back to the
assuming-
same region.
You're assuming it's like 3 years, right? It's
Yeah.
like a game each year. I don't think it would be that.
I agree with you. So would Game Freak ever consider retelling the Unova story in a completely remixed way that mixes together the narratives of Black and White and Black and White 2 into one game? And it's
Yeah.
a paradox alternate telling of Unova's grand story.
Like, what if you play as How or like a new character, right?
Regardless,
And,
if
like,
they
you
just
go
took
through it-
and rejiggered it a little bit.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. And because they've already introduced the Black 2, White 2 locations, those can be part of the natural story, right? It's like you're going
Exactly.
up here and it's like, oh, instead of going straight to the sand area, you go to Verbank, right? Instead of going to the desert, you go to Verbank. You explore all of that. There's a little side quest. Then you go back up, right? They could change the whole thing around. Maybe they introduce a new location. You go up to Niagara Falls, and then you go, you know what I'm saying?
And wouldn't it just be so Pokemon to create a new game that spurns a controversy of people going, they're changing the story that everybody likes. They're abandoning these story beats. How could they do this?
Is the story really that
for a
great?
game that people didn't like when it first came out, but
Yeah,
now
that's true.
everyone has like grown to love. I could see it so easily.
The people who are yelling are the people who grew up with it, who liked it since the beginning. That's what's going on. I think, I think there's a lot of potential, and it's tricky because I'm like, all we can predict is what they've done in the past.
Yeah.
And I think it really would make sense if we get a game, an experience of a game that's something that we don't expect. Because I think that's actually how you have to do it. I think it's much better if Game Freak approaches every remake or every new gen with a new perspective, and they want to give us an experience that's tailored to whatever that region is, right? I think it makes sense for Sinnoh to, I think it makes sense for us to go back in time, considering what that story was, right? I think it makes sense for Unova to do something completely different, right? Maybe, it's all about like truths and ideals, right? What is the opposite experience that we experienced in the original games? Maybe that's what we need to experience, right?
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, the cycle's been broken. They didn't do a remake.
Good.
They did a brand new game that was like a spiritual reimagining of Sinnoh. Game Freak outsourced BDSP, and I don't think it's a guarantee that every time we get a return to a region now, we're going to get an outsourced, like, just up-resed game. I don't think that's going to happen every time. It could happen again, but I don't think that's like our formula now.
I think also with the remakes, I think the remakes typically also, and again, I think the Gen 4 remakes were maybe like an outlier in this, but I think most of the times the remakes are incorporated or directly related or help explain additional story beats of whatever the game is, the main series game is in that generation. So you have Mega Evolution and that whole phenomenon being a complete through line through X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. That was something that didn't originally exist in the Hoenn region, but you had all these additional story beats, right, that helped explain what Mega Evolution was, and it totally expanded the lore. So I think whatever we get for Generation 5, there's going to be tie-ins to the story and the lore and the mysteries, right? All these unanswered things of Scarlet and Violet, right?
I mean, counterpoint, though, how did Legends Arceus do that with Sword and Shield?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't totally, I haven't put that together, but I do know that was a big thing in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And I think a lot of us understand that Gen 4 was kind of an outlier in that sense, right? With Fire Red and Leaf Green, it literally takes place during the same time period. It's like the events of Fire Red and Leaf Green take place during the same time as Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald.
Yeah, but I think they've strayed away from that formula is what I'm saying. Because like Sun and Moon, you had Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And yeah, there are a few characters from Sun and Moon because like Linky's been saying, they want to, tie some stuff back to it. But like Z-moves weren't present. Ultra Beasts weren't present. Like the big themes of Sun and Moon were still not present. Then you have Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and Legends Arceus. Not really any themes from Sword and Shield. Shirts and teases like rapid or agile style and strong style. Clearly, that has a correlation with the Urshifu forms. But I mean, there was no Gigantamax. There was no, really touch him with the Galar story.
I think that's a fair rebuttal. I also think there are connections between Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and the Gen 4 games as well, right? The regions.
Oh, there absolutely are.
Linky, you touched this in your most recent video. There's a ton of connections geographically.
That's why I'll be so sad if we return to Unova next year, because there's so many story beats that they hit on in Legends Arceus that connect to the Johto region, connect to things we learned about in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, the Sinjoh area of the map, connecting Johto and Sinnoh, how you can take an Arceus there and give yourself an egg of Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina.
Yep.
You get to, Cynthia is there, and she helps you do this. Like, in some of the text we read in the Hisui region, we learn about how the Celestica people that are now the Diamond and Pearl clan come from the Sinjoh part of the world. It's all there for us to eventually get another story telling us what happens in Johto. I think it's just a matter of when that eventually comes to fruition. Because one day we're going back to Johto. It might not be next year, but one day that's going to get picked up again.
And I think what I'm trying
the plan is they want Johto to be. I think the reason they do Unova next year is because they want to do Johto and Gen 10, because Gen 10 will be a big game-changing generation.
Yeah.
That'll be the next black white, the next red blue. Like that'll be. It's a huge deal. That's a big thing you can market, and so I think they would want to end that generation, go back to Johto, because by going back to Johto, you also probably go back to Kanto. Yeah. And so they are going back to the OG, because it was always planned Kanto and Johto. Those were the original games,
I do have one counter.
Okay.
My counter would be, is that Pokemon likes to keep all of its stuff as fresh as possible because it is an enormous marketing giant. They want to keep all their regions, all their Pokemon as fresh and in the minds of people as possible so they can sell plushes and trading cards and reference them in the anime and keep them in the minds of people growing up. Have we at any point in Pokemon's history returned to a newer location in the years prior before going back to the one before? So after we got Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and then the next games that we got remade were Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, a return to Kanto, which follows the fact that we got Ruby and Sapphire, we got Fire Red and Leaf Green, and then we had Emerald, the third version. Then we went to Sinnoh, and the next remakes were BDSP and Legends Arceus. Is Pokemon going to jump over Johto, which is chronologically next, just to go to Unova?
But that's what I think is that they would swap them, because for one, they like to keep us on our toes.
That's the thing for me.
We're Pokemon Gray, no, Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. They like to, you're expecting Pokemon whatever the third version of Sword and Shield will be? No, DLC. So I think they would go, people are expecting Johto next year, so we're going to switch them. We're not skipping Johto. We're switching its place with Unova on the timeline. Doing Unova first, then the next remakes Johto.
Which is something that they did when they remade Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Anyone would expect Diamond and Pearl to come out and then Platinum, and they didn't do that. They gave us Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and then return to the third version. I think the main thing here that I'm kind of understanding is that whatever game comes next, the story will tie into whatever story and narrative they're trying to tell in Generation 9. I think there's going to be some through lines. Gen 8 was weird. Gen 8 was very weird. I think Gen 8 and everything in it, even Let's Go, I consider that Gen 8 because it's a Switch era, right? Again, that's a little bit
still Gen 7. We can't have this conversation.
How is it? Okay, this is what I'm saying.
Let's Go is Gen 7.
Hang on,
what I'm saying is
I want to believe this theory because I do think Unova has a lot of potential, but not to fact check you on your own podcast. But Platinum came out before Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Did it really?
True. Yes. Yeah, it was Diamond and Pearl, Platinum, then Heart Gold and Soul Silver. You're thinking it was Ruby and Sapphire, Fire Red, Leaf Green, then Emerald.
Yes,
but
that's
then
what
the
I'm
next time they did.
Well, that's what I meant. So that's what so I was right the whole time. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think it's very easy to be like, oh, we found some connections. This has to be next.
Are you
do this. Are you
two arguing about if Let's Go is Gen 7 or Gen 8?
Listen.
Yes, he thinks
Listen.
I'm just gonna sit back.
This is what it is. By the old standard, right? It's depending on how you look at it. By the old standards, it's obviously a Generation 7 game on a new console, which is fine. But I will say, Let's Go functions and works directly with, I guess I would say directly with Home, which then directly functions with all the other Gen 8 games. And it's a little bit removed. It's kind of like a 7.5, a Gen 7.5. But I do think...
But that's still a 7, isn't it?
Yes, but I do think...
Aren't there Alolan forms that you can also acquire in Let's Go?
Let's Go, yeah.
Yes, there are. Then also, because it comes after, but you can also...
When they added backwards compatibility with the recent Home update, Let's Go is not included. It is for Sword and Shield, Legends Arceus, Brilliant Diamond, Shiny Pearl, Gen 8, and Gen 9.
Yes, I recognize that it's kind of in a limbo point, and I think that actually works to my point. I think
not a limbo point.
It is.
It's Gen 7.
Bro, it does not function.
Ash Ketchum used a Meltan and Melmetal in Gen 7.
Yes, but it doesn't work with the Gen 7 games. Right?
I think
it doesn't work with the Gen 8
it introduced a new Pokemon.
I think I side with Dusty here.
I think it's just like in the middle. I just think it's like in the middle.
The problem is that Generations is such a fan concept to begin with.
That is true.
That's kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Mentally compartmentalize everything. So I do agree that I would almost say it's both.
It is both. It's like a 7.5.
End of Generation 7, but it's also kind of in its own space where it's not the brand new generation, but it's also so fundamentally different from the previous generation.
So it's different.
But also,
it's even different from the same games in the same generation.
Problem is, Let's Go has Mega Evolution, which is in Generation 7 and not in Generation 8. Let's Go has Alolan Forms, which is the games prior.
But it has Meltan and Melmetal, which aren't available until Gen 8.
It does, and Meltan and Melmetal are like amorphous, not connected to any generation or region.
Then
really.
Legends
That's from
Gen
Toronto.
9?
They're from the real
Gen
world.
9?
Meltan and Melmetal are Earth Pokemon.
No, Legend is Legends Gen 9.
Because if Legends, by that logic, Meltan's not available till Gen 8. Well, then Legends is Gen 9 because Ursaluna's not available till Gen 9.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's too in the weeds. I agree.
No, yeah, that is point. That is a good point. I think what I'm not trying to say it's like a Gen 8 game. What I'm trying to say is like it feels so far ahead of Gen 7, right? At least graphically, right? It's literally on a new console. So I feel like, all right, let's just go back. My main point was that Game Freak is going to keep us on our toes, right? We're trying to predict what's going on, and I think they keep throwing these little curveballs, and they go, "Oh, you think you're going to get Gen 8? Well, you're going to wait 2 more years."
Do you remember?
Here's Let's Go,
you guys
which is not even a
leaks?
real game.
Did you guys see the leaks a couple hours prior to when Legends Arceus and BDSP were announced? And someone had some screenshots from Legends Arceus, and people were like, "What on earth am I looking at?"
Yeah, like
here?
you could see the silhouette of Weirdeer. We didn't know what it was at the time, but everyone was speculating, "Holy crap, is that Stantler evolution?"
Yeah. Like,
and
I think Game Freak deserves a lot of credit for giving us a ton of really different games on the Switch. Let's Go. Regular new generation Sword and Shield, Legends games, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which aren't how they've done remakes in the past, open world Pokemon with Scarlet and Violet. Like, they've done a ton of different things. So if there is going to be one more big Pokemon game on this piece of hardware, it wouldn't shock me at all. If it's something, it's going to be Johto or Unova. I'm fully convinced that's what's coming next. It's one of those.
It's going to be Hoenn. It's going to take us all for a loop.
Well, no, I'm being so. Another part of my thought process was, what if they're done? Like, can they actually continue to pump out remakes at the pace that they're going? If they're really going to jump right into Gen 5,
they're going to drop. They're going to drop a curveball on us, and we're going to get more Scarlet and Violet DLC next year. It's going to be another expansion pack.
I'd be fine with that.
Wouldn't shock me.
If they give us ports, then I'd be okay with that. If they get, what I'm saying is, like, why could they not say, screw all of you? Paldea is near Kalos. Let's actually treat the Pokemon games like a Pokemon world and say, wouldn't it make most sense to revisit that region? And then Gen 10 goes, let's go to, I don't know, something else. It's like, why does it need to be so like linear and we need to continue to remake the thing that hasn't been remade? Let Alola die.
My theory is dead if you guys deconfirm what I'm about to say.
All right, let's go. Lumi will deconfirm.
They haven't, to my knowledge, both parts of the DLC, they haven't said where they take place. It's Kitakami and it's those islands.
They've said
nothing is said.
Of Paldea,
nothing is said. It's in that little northeast point
that's
that you can clearly see they've distinguished off on the map.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
If we get these two parts of the DLC and it is completely disconnected from that part of the map and has nothing to do with something that they deliberately make different on the map from the rest of the borders of the region, then my mind is going to start doing somersaults and say, why have they sectioned this off for absolutely no reason? They're not just doing it to screw with us. There's a reason. And what if we actually do get something next year that is, whether it's Kalos or more DLC for Scarlet and Violet, and we're not sitting here with any new remakes next year. We're actually jumping into a brand new generation in a couple years, and it's just Scarlet and Violet and continuous new content in this big open world engine that they've developed.
We have to go back to Kalos at some point. I'm not done with the dream. That's going to make such a good clip.
I just, if they go this whole DLC release and they don't talk about this very deliberate difference in the borders of Paldea,
dude, that's going to be outrageous.
It's complete. It's sectioned off in the same way, and it looks the same way graphically
Area
on the map.
Zero.
That Area Zero.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lose my mind.
Yeah, insanity.
Really? I don't believe it.
You know what it
I
could be?
think that'll happen. To be
No,
honest,
this is what it is.
That'll happen.
Yeah, I think this is that's so sick. No, what they're gonna do? They're gonna pull Tears of the Kingdom, where they're gonna put all the focus on Area Zero, on these Kitakami, and then we're gonna go to those locations. But there's gonna be another location that they reveal, which is gonna be in this DLC, and it'll be whatever is up in that top corner, which is gonna be Kalos. That's what's gonna happen.
I refuse to
I
believe.
to clarify, it would be South Kalos. It would not be Kalos.
Yes, or it'd be something else, but it would just be that landmass, which has to be geographically connected.
It would be the Sinjo of Paldea and Kalos.
Yeah. That is what they really should do. So I'm
refuse-
gonna clip this. It'll look good on TikTok.
I absolutely refuse, just flatly, to believe that they're gonna let that little section of the map just go as a complete mystery forever. I understand that they've left things as mysteries before, but it's so deliberate.
Yeah, I agree, but you also cannot rule out the fact, especially when there's so much of this in Scarlet and Violet, that it was something that got cut.
Maybe. But if it got cut, why wouldn't they do it in the DLC? The DLC could disprove this entire theory.
Oh, yeah,
it
absolutely.
very well could.
Absolutely.
That could be Kitakami.
Yeah.
It could.
Yeah.
But I
the
just
only
don't think
reason
so.
I don't think it is just because they've been hammering in so much that it's outside of Paldea, and they've been hammering in. They've show off Johto and Wooper. Look, that doesn't live in Paldea, so it would be really weird if it was right there. But
then again, if it's so close to Kalos, we had Wooper in Kalos, but not Paldean Wooper. Obviously, it didn't exist, but in the lore of the game. So if that is there, it would make sense that it's Wooper and not Paldean Wooper.
Yeah.
All right,
But it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, it seems like we'll know in September.
Yes.
Because that won't be Blueberry Academy. We know that.
I got a comment by Garoshand. What if a Paradox version of Unova is a version of the game where the player character is dropped into a world where they didn't originally exist to stop Team Plasma? It could even tie back into Rainbow Rocket and Alola and have Getsis missing, meaning we as the player character end up freezing N from the cold heart of Kirim. Sounds kind of violent. Because in this timeline, he lacked both trust and ideals without a player character to be tested against. Then it is up to us by restoring the original dragon to break Team Plasma's hold over Unova. Maybe Alder is missing from the world as well, having become the original hero of Legends Arceus. There's something there.
I do that's really cool. I think that's at the end of the day fan service. But
I was about to say the same thing. I was about to. It feels a little too fan service on the nose.
What is it? When like a fan writes their own story, it's not fan service. It's fan
fiction.
Fan fiction. That's
it's called
yeah.
headcanon.
But
yes, it's Pokemon YouTube.
Yeah.
What I would, the way I'm seeing it right now, I'm a full believer in spiritual Black 3 and White 3. So like it is a sequel. It will take place after Black 2 and White 2. But I do not think they'll call it Black 3 and White 3 because again, there is the whole issues of, they would have to release Black and White and Black 2 and White 2, and it's just too complicated. But so let's call it Pokemon Gray, hypothetically. It might not be called that. But you have this story, and what you do is you use the story of Black and White and Black 2 and White 2. You just set it up in the same way like the Kalos game set up the Great War. It's just like a thing that happened in the region that they talk about. And if you play Black and White and Black 2 and White 2, great, it means a little bit more to you. But if not, you can just set it up as the backstory for the region. Something's going on in Unova where because you have to think about if these are Unova games, you're going to get Zekrom and or Reshiram. So how do you get those? Because chronologically, one of those is with the hero from Black and White, and the other one was within and was given to the hero from Black 2 and White 2. So I think the plot would be about having to find those missing heroes to unite the dragons again because something apocalyptic's going on, or maybe it's an evil team leader. I don't know, but you're having to unite the dragons. So we do also finally get to see what the original dragon looked like. That would be my proposal for the story.
If we go back to Unova, I think the original dragon is a major focus. I have to be honest, as we've sifted through this entire conversation, I'm leaning more and more to the idea that it's way too predictable to think that we're going back to another region next year. And I don't know.
Yeah, this whole thing started like a year ago. I was like, oh, Johto has to be next.
right?
That's what, and I thought I was the ridiculous one because people keep.
I'll give you credit. I gotta
still
give it to you on that one, by the way, because I don't think like the community assumption for Johto has grown. Like it hasn't always
100%.
been this.
I think Toby has contributed to that. He equally has been talking about Johto, but I remember
the
talking about it a lot.
Kitakami stuff
And people
helped too. It's literally like Johto vibes.
But it makes sense, and I think both of these feel like options. I just think a lot of people originally were talking about Gen 5, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, we just got Gen 4. But it has grown to the point now where they're both really popular, and then by default as a hipster, right, I want to be like, no, we're not going to get either of them. Let's give us something different, right? Because DLC, it's kind of cool. DLC kind of functions as a new region, right? Like, Kitakami is literally a new region. It's part of it's obviously not a massive region, but it's literally a new location that's presumably not connected to Paldea, which is, I mean, I think that's
not
awesome.
Paldea. It has made that very clear. It said this is outside of Paldea's borders.
I think that is so cool. I think that is really cool.
Not for nothing, not to say old patterns always rule and are true at the end of the day, but when was the last time we had 2 generations in a row that included remakes?
2 generations in a row. I think
Like
it was
remakes.
Gen 3 and
Gen
Gen 4.
4.
Gen 3 and Gen 4.
But the Pokemon everything was so much smaller back then.
Yeah,
right?
it's been a long time. Like Sword and Shield had right? They had BDSP.
They had Oris.
And Legends
Sword and Shield
Arceus.
had Oris, yeah.
Yeah, Gen 8 had
Sword,
Let's Go.
I don't know why I said
and
X and Y. I was
BDSP.
thinking
Gen 8
X
had
and Y.
Let's Go.
Actually, no, we had 2 remakes.
X and Y had Oris.
We had Gen 7 with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And
So it was
Gen 8
Oris,
with
then
BDSP.
Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee.
We
then
really do get
Right now,
remakes
China.
often nowadays.
Well, I thought you meant traditional remakes. If you mean the very traditional remakes, then that would just be Gen 3 and 4.
We haven't had traditional remakes in a very Oras, right? Is that the last
Well,
traditional
Brilliant Diamond Shining
kind of
Pearl,
remake?
I think, is supposed to be that. Just
It
by
is.
the naming scheme, they put an adjective before the name. You know?
Dude, another thing that we didn't even talk about, and I just want to bring this up every time we mention a remake. If we're actually getting a Unova game that's 15 years in the future, that means all of the characters in the region, right, as a character itself, have all aged up, and there's all of this progression, right? People have stepped down. Maybe Roxy is now really introverted, and she's not as loud and young as she once was. What if Bryson is retired, right? It's like we have all this shifting throughout the region, which is going to make it feel like a whole different experience.
Bryson's gone full-time actor.
Yeah,
I can see a world, given the
He's been
themes of Black
canceled.
and White, the fact that they basically, the Black and White Pokedex was completely made up of brand new Pokemon. They didn't bring anything. It was a soft reboot. I could see a world where when they eventually go back to Unova, Game Freak, as much as people like to rag on them, they still put a lot of time and effort into the theming of Pokemon and the region and why they do what they do. Even though people would like them to work on these things longer, I could see a world where we get a whole refreshed cast of characters in the Unova region in a Black and White 3
Dude, Iris.
or a new
I didn't even
Unova.
think of it. Iris will be an
Bianca
adult.
could be the professor now, not just the professor's aide.
Yeah, I like that. I would not like if Sharon was the champion.
No,
they
he
would
wouldn't.
totally
He'd be a
do
gym
that.
leader.
I could
I
see
know.
that. He's
He would
already
be the
a gym
champion.
leader.
She's the professor.
Yeah.
And
That's what I'm saying.
But I don't like Sharon. I think he's too boring.
Oh, you know what? You have one of the really cool things to me, at least from
so
Black
serious.
and White, was the psychic Elite Four member was Caitlyn from the Battle Frontier Sinnoh and Johto. Well, in Black 2 and White 2 at PokeStar Studios, Sabrina is there as an actress. What if Sabrina now has moved to Unova and is a gym leader or something there?
That's cool. I know. Oh, that's so cool. That's like Koga moving up to become an Elite Four member. Dude, that would be really cool. They could even take characters throughout, throughout Gen 9 or throughout 8, 7, whatever, and move those over.
Are there any Scarlet and Violet characters that we know are from the Unova region? Were there any?
Well, I mean, seemingly there is the kid that Ku is teasing. Seemingly, that's the speculation.
Yeah, that's true.
On him.
Okay,
but he's interesting. We don't even know him yet.
Yeah, we don't know him, but the speculation is that he's Drayden's grandson or something.
Because Game Freak has enough of a track record now that they really heavily tease what's coming next in these games, which is why the Kitakami thing and Johto, but then the counter of Unova is so interesting, Because if you're just looking at the DLC and you're ignoring leaks and all of that, it feels like they're screaming Johto in your face. It really does.
It does.
I know. Soul's opinion is
I'd
that
say
they're doing that to hold us off.
Maybe.
I'd say the counterpoint to that too is I think they're aware. Everyone thinks that it is either Johto or Unova. Let's make them not know which one it is. So they give us a ton of Johto stuff. They give us a ton of, like, think about the paradoxes that we're getting with DLC. You know, it's the beasts from Johto and the swords from Unova. You know, also just interestingly enough, in the anime, they gave in Journeys a decent bit of love. So Gen 8 anime, they gave a decent bit of love to Iris. They now made her the champion in the anime, which she was previously not. She had they gave her.
Well, she was champion in Black and White too.
Yeah. I know, but that's what I'm saying is they went and revisited her and brought her to her game status, and they had Ash battle her at one point. They had her reappear for the Masters 8, and she was in that, and they even did they touched on her character a lot. Like, they talked about how she looked up to Cynthia a lot, which was like something that was established back in Black and White. So, I mean, there was a decent bit of Unova love there in that regard.
All right, so some gym leaders from Gen 9 that I think would be kind of cool to head over to like a Gen 5 remake, even if it's just cameos. I think it'd be funny if Larry was on a business trip. That's classic, right? You have Rhyme, the ghost type gym leader. She's a rapper. You know, New York City, baby. Right? Am I wrong? Is that's where rap started, right? Or hip hop was created.
I mean, a lot of it stems
I know it's the United
from
States, but
jazz was created in New York City. R&B became really big in New York City. So a lot of that has its roots culturally in New York City. Yeah,
I would love that. That would be so cool. Yeah, big rap fan, so that'd be really cool to see her in Unova. We've got Tulip, who's another model, and she's a psychic type, and I'm like, that's her and Sabrina. I could even see Iono at the PokeStar Studios.
Oh.
Right?
Absolutely, yes.
So I think those would be really cool.
You know what would be neat? That little advertisement you mentioned earlier, Linky, with the Pikachu. If you're just walking in the city and it's like Iono's stream, like she's not even in the game, but they just have like a stream on. That would be so cool.
Oh God, do you know what they're gonna do when we eventually go back to Unova?
What are they gonna do?
No.
It's going to be an Alolan Peak. It's going to be an Alolan Raichu on the advertisement.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hint at Alola, the region after Unova, and you're going to get a million and one people
came
being
after
like,
Unova. Kalos came
out. Oh, that's true. That's true. But they're giving us Kalos next. So that's going to be out of the way.
Yes.
Man, I honestly, I do kind of want to go back to Kanto. Seeing this picture of Brock, I'm like, damn, like I want to see that.
If I turn 80 before I go back to Kanto, I will consider it lucky.
Dude, I feel like the Johto game is going to be so much fun because they will introduce some things Kanto related. It's like integral to Kanto, but
maybe.
Anyways, we could keep going on. Linky, what do you want to plug? Thank you so much for being here. What do you want to tell people?
I'll plug the channel. Head over to my channel, youtube.com/Linky. All my social channels are exactly the same, at LinkyYT. You can find me Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, I suppose Threads now, all of them.
Yeah, they'll be in the
on
description.
Every single one.
I need to make a Threads.
Go check it out. Mm-hmm.
Are you still, I'll cut this out if it's not true, but are you still doing your podcast?
Right now it's on hold.
Okay.
Because I want to focus on keeping the main channel consistent.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on here. We'd love to have you on again. Thank you guys.
Absolutely.
If you're listening, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, follow Linky, and if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, leave us a review. That'd be helpful. It helps more than you know. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.
Bye.
See ya.